We have one public hearing tonight. Speakers should begin their remarks by telling council their names and cities of residence, and if they feel comfortable doing so, their home addresses. When called upon, please wait until our meeting host promotes you to speaker. When you are promoted, your screen will flash and say, "Reconnecting to meeting." Please do not leave the meeting. You will be reconnected and will need to turn on your camera if you have one and your microphone. If you have signed up to answer questions only, state your name and note you are available for questions of council. Speakers will have 3 minutes. There's no yielding of time. You will see your time flash on the screen when you have 30 seconds left. Speakers must stay on the topic of the hearing and must direct their comments to the council members. Please refrain from profane or obscene speech. Direct your comments to council as a whole, and please refrain from individual or personal attacks. Councilmember Sawyer, will you please put Council Bill 20-1456 on the floor for passage?
I move that Council Bill 20-1456 be placed upon final consideration and do pass.
Second.
It has been moved, and thank you for the second. Councilman Hines. The required public hearing for Council Bill 20-1456 is open. May we please have the staff report?
Yes, let me share my screen. We are here for the designation of 1272 Columbine Street. I want to make sure that everyone can see the screen. Okay. So 1272 Columbine Street is in Council District 10. It's in the Congress Park neighborhood. And as you can see here, it's near the corner of 13th and Columbine Street. The designation is owner supported, and I believe that Jovan is on the line. And as is Historic Denver, who helped assist with the designation application. In order for a property to be designated, according to the landmark ordinance, the structure needs to maintain its historic integrity. It needs to be 30 years of age or older. It needs to meet at least 3 out of 10 criteria, and the Landmark Preservation Commission needs to consider the structure's historic context. This particular property is significant for 3 criteria, B, C, and D, and we'll go through each of these 3. The first, it is associated with recognized persons or groups of persons who had influence on society. It is associated with the Stahl family who resided at the property from 1889 through the 1940s. And it's most associated with businessman John Stahl. He moved out to Colorado from New York in 1879 into the Colorado mining area of Tin Cup and Buena Vista. And Tin Cup was a much larger community, but it is now during the mining boom. And he provided mining supplies to both larger retail as well as wholesale sales. And so he became a well-known member of the community. Providing the mining supplies was a more reliable way of making money than actually doing the mining. Him and his family were very influential within the area, very wealthy members of the community. They eventually decided to move back to Colorado, where John Stahl took up and started a typewriting business. In the 1880s, when he started the business of selling typewriters, it was a fairly new invention and was something that was new technology to be sold. He became one of the most well-known typewriter salesmen in the area. His business was very well-known and one of the best in the city of Denver. He supplied it both for newspapers as well as stenographers, as well as any other businesses that needed that needed typewriters. And as one of the primary modes of communication, it was an important invention and sale during the 1880s and 1890s. It's noted in the application that he was very well covered by the press. There were over 2,000 clippings of him within the Colorado newspapers, and it was thought that perhaps because he was providing the newspapermen with their main means of communication, that perhaps they gave him a little more press than was necessary. In addition to his important roles in businesses in Denver, he was also a booster for the city. Whenever people were coming to visit, he oftentimes would provide tours for people for the development of Denver, and he was involved in politics primarily with the Democratic Party. Throughout the years, as I noted, with a lot of almost an excess number of coverage by his family, they were very well known in social circles and in Denver papers. If they wanted to advertise an event that was happening, one of the children or his family was noted as attending as a way to say that this was an important event that someone should attend. All four of his children, as are seen on the screen, were noted in the press and were noted as important members of the community. And so the property that has had a long-term association both with John Stahl and then with his children and family were important members of society. The second criteria that the property is significant under is for its Queen Anne style. This can be seen in its form and massing as well as its detailing. First, in the form, you can see it in the steeply pitched roofs. You can see it in the cross gables, as well as the nested gables that are here up front. You can see it with the multiple wall planes and the asymmetry of the building, which are important components of the Queen Anne style. And then secondly, you can see it in the details of the brick and stone and woodwork of the ornately decorated gable ends up here, as well as on the sides, as well as on the porch. And then finally, you can see it a little bit in the Richardsonian Romanesque arched window that was added to the Queen Anne style. And so this property displays the characteristics of the Queen Anne architectural style. And the third criteria for which it's designated, or for which it's the designation application was written, is that it's a significant work of a recognized architect, specifically William Lang. He arrived in Colorado in 1885 and quickly gained success. He was one of the most prolific and well-known architects of the 1880s and 1890s. Pre-1893, he was most known for high-style buildings such as this building here. And then after 1893 and after the silver crash, he was more known for slightly more subdued Queen Anne styles. One of the historic districts that's most recently known for him is the 200 block of South Lincoln, which you guys might have seen a couple of years ago, that were a little more of the middle class buildings that he designed after the 1893 crash. This is a good example of his work. It's one of the early examples of his work in the Congress Park area. And so it's one of the few remaining there that has really good integrity. The Discover Denver survey has gone through Congress Park. And so they have surveyed all of the buildings in the Congress Park area and have highlighted this as one of William Lang's best examples in the neighborhood. And so this is a significant example of his work, as well as one that's known within the Congress Park neighborhood as being a good example and an early example of William Lang's work. In addition to meeting 3 out of the 10 criteria, a property also needs to retain its integrity. This doesn't refer to its structural integrity, but rather to its historic integrity. There are 7 aspects of integrity, which are noted at the bottom of the slide. This property retains all of those. And for historic integrity, it basically means, would a prior resident recognize the building, or does it still look like what it used to look like? And in this particular example, it retains excellent integrity. Although the house has been divided into multi-unit housing, it still has the appearance of the original residential structure, and it retains good integrity. And then finally, the last thing that is looked at is its historic context, which is something that is reviewed by the Landmark Preservation Commission. They reviewed it and found that the Stahl House, its historic context, its period of significance, which is the time period during which a property is significant, reflects the criteria for which it's designated. It was one of the first houses built in the subdivision near Congress Park. It was commissioned by an influential member of society, and he went to what was one of the most well-known architects in Denver, in William Lang. And then the architect designed in what was one of the most popular styles of the time, of the Queen Anne style, before the silver crash of 1893. So the historic context in which the building was designed and built and constructed matches the criteria for which it's designated. And then the property is significant from 1889 to 1943, which is the time period in which the Stahl family resided in the property. In terms of public comment that CPD received, we were forwarded public comment from the Congress Park neighbors, R&O. They distributed information about the designation application to the community. The community completed an online survey that showed strong support for designation, and so the R&O is supportive of the designation. And in summary, for this particular property, it is over 30 years of age. It meets 3 out of the 10 criteria. The property retains integrity, and the LPC considered its historic context. Landmark Preservation Commission unanimously recommended approval and forwarded it to you for your review, and CPD staff recommends approval for the designation application. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you for the great staff report, Kara. Council has not received any written comments on 20-1456. And tonight we have 5 individuals signed up to speak. And our first speaker is Jovan Fitzgerald.
Hello.
Hello. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and provide us your address or your city of residence, please?
My name is Jovan Fitzgerald, and my husband's right behind me here. We live at 955 Pearl Street, which is in the Quality Hill Historic District. And we are very pleased you are considering our property at 1272 Columbine for designation as a Denver landmark, and it will be known as the Stahl House. John Stahl, as Kara told you, was a pioneering businessman with the foresight and daring to leave his family house and businesses in Lockport, New York, and join many fortune seekers flocking to the young state of Colorado in the 1870s. He and partners, also from Lockport, established hardware stores in the mining district from Tin Cup to Buena Vista. Within just a few years, they saw more opportunity in the capital city and moved to Denver, each pursuing his own business interests. For Stahl, it was to introduce a relatively new device. His typewriter business, possibly Denver's first, opened in 1885 at 16th and Champa. It quickly transformed communications in the city. The business gave Stahl the contacts to gain prominence and influence in all aspects of civic life, up to his death at age 90 at the Columbine Street House. The Stahl House was built in 1889, among the earliest in what is now the Congress Park neighborhood. He chose lots just 3 blocks from East High School, where all 4 of his children would graduate. He chose William Lang, the most popular architect at the time, to design the home. The Stahl family lived, married, and died in the home from its construction to the 1940s. When we purchased the property in 1982, we were amazed to find such a classic example of Queen Anne architecture still standing among nearby apartment buildings. Having survived for 93 years, obviously loved by 2 previous owners, the home deserved a future life. We decided that 2 dwelling units would protect the architectural features and retain the historic character. Also, it seemed a better fit for the block, which was so altered by mixed use in the 1960s and 70s. We've always believed the Stahl House worthy of landmark status, but when the citywide Discover Denver survey identified it also as one of the few Queen Anne structures and one of the most intact of Lang's designs, we were encouraged to apply for individual designation. Thanks to the help of Historic Denver and the support of the Landmark Commission and staff, we are seeking your approval. We hope it might inspire other owners wanting to preserve the history and character of the Congress Park neighborhood.
Thank you for your public comment. And all right, perfect. Next up, our second speaker is Annie Levinsky.
Hi, good evening. Thanks so much for hearing this designation application tonight. I am Annie Levinsky. I'm the Executive Director of Historic Denver. We're located at 1420 Ogden Street. And as you know, we're a membership-based nonprofit organization dedicated to education and advocacy to help promote and protect our historic places and spaces. And I'm really pleased to be here tonight to support the designation of 1272 Columbine. While the home's history was well known to its owners, and as you can tell, Jovan is very passionate about it, it was not well known more broadly until the Discover Denver survey was working in the neighborhood over the last couple of years, and we were able to reconnect with the Fitzgeralds. And the research team noticed the home because of its prominent and unique design features and it being a very intact example of an early Denver style, the Queen Anne style. But further research did uncover the architect, William Lang, who is the architect of our own organization's Molly Brown House, as well as the house known as the Castle Marne, another well-known property in District 10, and then uncovered the story of the Stahl house, or the Stahl family, which is a really fascinating story of two generations of Denver leaders who were very heavily involved and lived in the home for more than 50 years. And I think it's a testament to this house that it's had only 3 owners, the Stahl family, the subsequent owner, and then the Fitzgeralds. And they've all obviously poured a lot of sweat and energy into maintaining it in such fine condition. And so I want to commend the Fitzgeralds for taking this action and for their patience, because it is something that they have long wanted to achieve. And we were really happy to be able to help bring it across the finish line. Jovan did a lot of the research herself about the house over the years. And then our team, including interns and staff, intern Scott Kreutzer, Shannon Stage on our staff, and Leslie Krupa helped to complete the application. And the Fitzgeralds have been incredibly thoughtful in their efforts to maintain and restore the house. Their choice early on to convert it from a one-time single family home, later it had borders, and then into the 2 units that are there today, demonstrates the flexibility of older homes to accommodate the changing needs of our city over time. And because of this designation, the house will continue to survive and thrive there and provide for community needs long into the future. So thank you for your consideration, and I can be available for questions about the application if needed.
All right, thank you very much, Annie. Next up, we have Jesse Paris. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yes, good evening, members of council. My name is Jesse LaShawn Paris. I'm representing for Denver Homicide Loud, Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado and Mile High News. And I will be the next mayor of Denver in 2023. This current preservation tonight of 1275 Columbine Street, it meets all the criteria for a destination of this kind. However, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the historical significance of this area with the redlining that occurred in Denver in the 1800s and the 1900s, and still in certain pockets continues to this day. This area, this family that you have brought all this praise and galore upon, they were racist white supremacists. They didn't do anything to help so-called people of color in the city. They built their fortunes off the backs of them, and they probably became here from the riches they acquired from the slave trade. As well, they are beneficiaries of the slave trade. So, with that being said, we have to acknowledge this history. This was not that long ago. And in 2021, we are still dealing with the same issues. So I am in favor of this rezoning despite that horrible history, because it meets all the criteria, and there's nothing I can tell you tonight that is going to change your vote on this. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Hagan.
Hi, my name is David Hagan. I live in District 9. So we thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for allowing me to speak. In the spirit of what you said earlier about preserving the voices, since I was unable to speak earlier, I have something to speak on as a general comment because I signed up at 12:30 on Friday and was not given my 3 minutes. I I wanted to talk about the fact that it was an atrocious act last Wednesday that happened at the Capitol. And it's not only Donald Trump that's responsible, it's every single Republican
Excuse
that didn't
me,
speak
Mr.
out.
Hagan,
And with that being
we
said,
weren't able
every single
to
member of
get
City
to
Council
you
that
because
doesn't
we didn't
stop
have
to
enough
speak
time.
is
And
responsible
so
for what's going
you're
on.
you're gonna have to
Responsible
speak
for the
on
deaths of
this
all the people.
land preservation, this landmark preservation tonight. I'm sorry you weren't able to be heard during public comment tonight, but if you want to use your time to speak on this landmark preservation, you may do so.
Am I even on anymore? Hello? Am I still on?
You're still on.
Okay,
Would
well,
you
I'm not
like
gonna
to
speak
finish
about
your
the
public comment
racist
on
house.
the
So you can either
landmark
cut me off or listen to me
preservation we're
speak
talking about
what I want to
tonight?
talk about. I'm sorry, what?
You can use your time tonight to talk about the landmark preservation of this home.
I will not be talking about that. So you can either cut me off or listen to
Then
what I say.
we're going to go ahead and move to the next speaker. We've got Tess Doherty up. All right, we're going to go ahead and move to our last speaker, and that's Tess Doherty. And we would just ask that folks stay on the topic of the landmark preservation that we're talking about tonight. All right, and we'll see if we can get Miss Doherty into the meeting here. Okay, all right. Unfortunately, we had them leave. Tess left the meeting. And so that concludes our speakers tonight. Questions from members of council? All right, seeing no questions. Oh, there we go. Wanted to take a second. Councilwoman Kniech.
Thanks, Madam President. Just one real quick one. I heard a passing reference to being inside of a historic district, and I just wanted to ask the staff if you could clarify what the significance of being a designated individually is inside of a district, and whether and whether there's any difference in terms of what happens in the future. Just any clarification on that would be helpful.
So this property itself is not inside of a district, but I believe that Jovan Fitzgerald, the house they currently live in, is in a historic district. So I think that's the reference you were talking about.
I misunderstood that. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying. No further questions, Madam President. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Kniech. All right, going one last time for any other questions from members of council. Seeing none, the public hearing for Council Bill 20-1456 is closed. Comments by members of council. Councilman Hines.
Thank you, Madam President. This historic designation is in District 10 in Denver's Perfect 10 in the Congress Park neighborhood, and I'm really excited about this designation. I want to recognize that we're a growing city. We should make sure that we prepare ourselves for tomorrow, but we should also observe and celebrate Denver's rich history. I don't know if you know, but I grew up in the oldest town in East Texas, and there was actually evidence of human remains or human activity as far back as 10,000 years. So as far as American history, that's a long time. And so growing up in a town, the oldest town in Texas, where there were a lot of recognition of history, as well as obviously business people conducting business today, it helped give me a respect for balancing both. And with 1272 Columbine, I am really excited to support this historic designation. I want to thank CPD staff for all their research and a great presentation. I want to thank Congress Park Neighbors, the registered neighborhood organization that took up the community engagement. I want to thank the neighbors of Congress Park who responded to the survey and recognized the beauty, quality, and significance of 1272 Columbine. I want to thank Historic Denver, but most importantly, I want to thank the Fitzgerald family. I want to thank you for your interest in the owner-initiated historic designation. my first brush with historic designation after I took office was with Tom Steiner, and that was not an owner initiated. In fact, it was owner opposed. So, so this is a far kinder, gentler designation, and I want to thank the Fitzgerald family for their willingness to engage me, Historic Denver, and other stakeholders as they went through the appropriate process to give this designation its best chance for success. So to the Fitzgerald family, thank you very much. To my colleagues, I will support this, and I hope you do as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. And I appreciate your comments, and I will also be supporting this tonight. It meets the criteria, and I really appreciate Ms. Fitzgerald sharing the history of the house and their work on preserving this structure for generations to come. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Hines.
Aye.
Cashman. Kinich.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Sandoval.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Torres.
Aye.
Black.
Aye.
Cedabaca.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Herndon.
Aye.
I see Cashman.
Aye.
Madam President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, please close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Council Bill 20-1456 has passed.